Welcome to How's Your Life Looking? I am Miriam Bennett, a mortgage lender serving Camden County and its surrounding areas in Georgia and Florida. I get to help people make some of the biggest decisions, buying homes, but there's so much more into building your life. I like to bring some of the most amazing professionals that get to me on a daily basis, and we discuss everything from mental health to managing finances, empowering you for life decisions that will help you build the life you deserve. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Sean Orr, a neurologist serving Camden County and its surroundings in Georgia and Florida. We had a very insightful conversation that I hope you found a value in it. Enjoy. Thank you so much, Dr. Orr. Has been serving in our community the last 4 or 5 years, and I would like for you to tell the audience who you are and what you do to help our community.
Thank you very much for having me here, Miriam. It's really a pleasure and an honor. I'm very pleased to be part of this community. I've had a great reception since I started working here in 2018. I'm a neurologist, classically trained as a neurologist, so trained to take care of people with all forms of brain, spinal cord, and muscle injury. And I'm also trained as a subspecialist in what we call vascular and critical care neurology. We can talk about that later if you'd like to get into it, but I was very lucky to be at the cutting edge of the development of a new area of neurology years ago. For many years, I worked in the hospital system. About 15 years, I got out of hospital work, and I've been very lucky to be in independent private practice. Right now, it's a very difficult time for a lot of colleagues, and physicians are burning out at high rates. Being in this community has really been good. The people here have been very receptive. I've really enjoyed meeting movers and shakers like yourself, but just the everyday people that come through seeking help, it's a real blessing. So this private practice, the Neurogenesis Project, has really turned into a mission for me and for my partner, Dr. Edwards, as well. I also wear 2 other hats. I'm the director of a nutritional supplement company called Action Potential Supplements, and we can talk more about what that does for the brain. And then my third job is a CEO of a digital media company called Dr. Media Group. So we have a variety of digital products that we use to help to serve physicians throughout the state of Florida, really to give physicians a voice and help to support them as they also become leaders again in the community for medical care.
That's amazing. Very well-rounded, and with your expertise and your patient that have experience from friends, you have already made a great difference in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have actually exposed some questions on social media to our community to see what they would like to ask Dr. Orr and how we can help them answer some of the questions. And I chose few, and I hope you can answer all these questions for them. And I appreciate you for being here today.
Thank you.
We're going to start with social media. What a subject.
What a question to open with, right? Here we are on social media, and it's such a loaded topic. Yeah. So what particularly do our listeners want to know?
Yeah, so they would like to know, how does social media affect our day-to-day lives, and how does it affect our brain?
Good question. I mean, it's impossible to ignore social media. It's everywhere. It's really in every aspect of our lives right now. It influenced our elections that we just had in a major way. It's taken over. I think that what we're seeing in brain science, it's really interesting. I think there's good and bad. What we're seeing on the good side, from a brain perspective, is that people are being able to teach themselves new topics, new skills that they might never have been exposed to before. In my clinic, many patients who come to see me are much more well-informed than they ever were before, and that really is very empowering. People want to know what's going on. They want to know the details of how they can be better, how they can function better. So I personally, as a doctor, really enjoy it when patients come to see me and they've already asked questions. They've already educated themselves. And then really what I can do is, rather than spending so much time on educating people on the basics, it's really how do I help them with the nuances so that they can get better faster. I think on the downside, from a brain function perspective, what we're really seeing that is concerning is how social media is affecting development in young people, especially. In older people, especially people my age, we've already pretty much set our brain structure and function. But young people who are developing, we're seeing that social media can really capture their attention. We're seeing social media addiction. We're seeing a lot of people who are being affected in terms of their mood, so depression, suicidality. I think one of the fastest growing segments of young people committing suicide is 10-year-old girls. It's just very,
heartbreaking.
It is. It's very hard to imagine that we could be in a position where a child is driven to attempt or complete suicide because of something that they saw on Instagram or Discord. So there was a lawsuit just filed in Florida last week where a 14-year-old ended up taking his life. He shot himself after an artificial intelligence bot encouraged him to take his own life. And so, and I think the parents were involved with the child, but, some of these, I think there's a lot of loneliness, and I think children are lonely in many ways, and so they're turning to social media to look for connection, and it's not always the healthiest connection. So I'm really looking at social media when I see patients in terms of toxic doses, just like somebody can have a toxic dose of radiation or of chemotherapy or medication, sometimes they can have a toxic dose of social media. So I think it's really about regulating is important.
What would be one advice that you will give today's parents that they can help their children manage that?
I would say be very engaged with your child and don't just accept what they tell you on the surface. Because sometimes kids are getting into these relationships online and it satisfies an aspect of their life that makes them feel good, and they don't want that to be revealed. And when it blows up, it can blow up in a bad way.
Absolutely.
I can tell you, this is even 10 years ago, I had one child I was taking care of, and his parents brought him in to see me because they thought he had attention deficit disorder. And so we were going through this evaluation, and he didn't seem like he quite checked all the boxes. And I asked him, how much time are you spending on media? And he didn't really give me a good answer. The parents went back and looked at their cell phone bill and discovered that in a month he had sent 50,000 text messages to his girlfriend at all hours of the day and night. He was not sleeping. He was not doing anything. So, of course, his schoolwork was suffering. And as soon as he went on a diet of social media.
What best way to put it? A diet of social media. So there's wonderful advice. So watch closely your children's time spent and be engaged. How is the quality of the food today affecting our mental health and decision making?
It's really a great question, Miriam. We see around the world that obesity rates are around 2 to 5%. In the United States, it's 50%. There's really something wrong with our food supply. And the way that I see it show up in our clinic is usually with metabolic disease. And that's a very broad category. But generally speaking, what we're seeing is a lot of inflammation taking place. Inflammation because of foods that create a bad environment in the gastric tract. Gastrointestinal tract becomes inflamed. That actually affects brain function. There's a very interesting study done about 4 or 5 years ago where we looked at brain function. We can look at brain structure and function with different devices like MRI scans or PET scans, for example. And we found that there was a direct correlation between the amount of inflammation in the body and the amount of brain dysfunction. So we can actually measure that. And we do that in our clinic. I will do an MRI, which is a pretty advanced, we're very fortunate to have access to good tools here, yeah. And we can see, how dimmed down is the brain, how dim is the frontal lobes. And so oftentimes when we're seeing a patient who's struggling with fatigue or brain fog, and maybe they've had a concussion, or maybe they got sick with a viral infection, maybe they're overworking, or they have sleep apnea that's not taken care of, the frontal lobes in particular, up front in the, right above your forehead here, right, they'll turn off very easily. It's very delicate brain tissue, extremely energy-hungry brain tissue, and it doesn't take much. Some dehydration, sleep deprivation, but the wrong foods definitely are contributing to that.
So if I am looking into improving my diet and my children's diet, what would you determine to start as a number one priority to do to be able to get my life in order?
That's a great question. The first thing I would do is eliminate processed carbohydrates. So refined sugars are toxic for the brain. Now it's a bit of a loaded issue because we need glucose for brain function to occur properly. Glucose is the main source of fuel for the brain. It's what happens when you're getting too much of it. Too much sugar starts to be deposited in your body as fat, and that is an inflammatory tissue.
Right.
And it will start to show up in places like the liver and other organs that don't need the fat. So all of that will start to create an inflammatory mess for the brain. So I'd get rid of sugar.
Inflammation
first.
seems to be the devil here, and you have to just manage your inflammation in your body to avoid future issues.
That's right.
That's very good advice, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. And it looks like I have some work to do myself. So we talked about social media. You helped us look for other ways to be able to make better our health, food or nutrition lifestyle. And the other part I would love to discuss, which I've seen it in my industry, is there's two feelings that you make a decision or stop making you, helping you to make decisions. One is the love and fear. So in our industry, I see there's a lot of fear on the housing market. A lot of people are not making decisions because of fear of what might or might not happen. As people are not buying houses, they're not refinancing because of higher rates. How does it fear affect our brain function of decision making?
That is such a good question. Do we have another 2 hours? We could talk about this for a long time.
Give us like the best points that you will use for yourself to help you move.
About half of our patients are healthy, high-functioning people who we work on enhancing their brain function. And so much of what we do there is really coaching. We call it neurocoaching. And what I tell my patients is that, you have a choice every day when you wake up. This is a new day. You have the blessing to be here. How are you going to use it? And you can decide, are you going to focus on things that make you afraid, or are you going to decide to focus on the things that make you feel calm and peaceful? And love is certainly central to that, right? It's not always that easy. If somebody's burning out, if their frontal lobes are not working well, maybe they're working too hard, not getting enough rest.
Right.
It's natural for us to default back to the fight or flight system. And there's no shortage of things going on right now to trigger the fight or flight mechanism.
Absolutely.
Right? All you need to do is get on social media. Everybody's talking about Civil War or World War III, right? It sounds very scary and existential. But the truth is, almost all of us right now are not affected directly by those things, at least not in this country. And for most people, when you make that decision, am I going to pay attention to things that scare me? Well, that's natural, right? We gravitate to the things that we think are threats.
Right.
So it takes almost a superhuman effort to resist that and to focus on being positive. But when you make that shift, the change to your biology is huge. So one of the biggest things that we've learned over the last couple of decades is what we've known for centuries, which is that there's a connection between the mind and the body. But now we know how that works biologically much better than we ever did before. I could talk to you about biological pathways, but having stressful thoughts, like we're the only animal that can think ourselves into stress. You don't see dogs and cats wandering around worrying about the stock market, right? They're just having love and they're enjoying life. We're the ones that will ruminate on bad things. And when we do, that actually sends signals to our body. It creates inflammation to have stress. And that makes sense. If we're fighting off an animal and we get damaged, we have to repair our body tissues, right? But why waste that valuable brain space? Our brain, pound for pound, generates more energy than the sun.
Right.
So it's a very energetic organ, yet it stays cool. It works on 12 watts. It's a beautiful, beautiful creation. And it also generates a lot of waste product in that process. So if you're going to be thinking hard and churning through that brain energy, I encourage my patients to focus on things that bring you joy, that make you feel love. And if you can't do that, it may mean that there's something going on biologically that you need to really focus on. The way it shows up in your industry when people are having fear is that the people who actually can overcome that are the ones that will win.
Right.
When everybody's afraid, the person who feels confident and takes action in a positive direction is going to leave everybody else behind.
You don't grow out the comfort zone.
That's correct. You
Absolutely.
Don't. Yeah.
That's a great advice, and thank you so much for responding that. I know a lot of audience are waiting to hear these responses. Can't wait to get back with them. In addition to social media, diet, and our thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. Decision to either think positively and move forward and fall forward, mm-hmm. or think negatively, you don't have to go that far. Again, go back to social media. Mm-hmm. I would like for you to talk a little bit, and I know you've been working on this for quite some time, about what can help us supplement our diet.
Thank you for asking. This is a very personal thing to me. When I first trained as an intensive care neurologist decades ago, I learned that somebody who's critically ill needs adequate nutrition in order to survive that illness. And when I was training as a young physician in practice, just after the decade of the brain, in the 1990s, we had all of these promises for medications that were going to cure dementia, cure Parkinson's disease. And honestly, it has been a renaissance. We've had an amazing embarrassment of riches, if you will. So many medications that are very helpful. However, I kept seeing this pattern where patients would not necessarily respond to the medications that we would provide, or sometimes they would have bad side effects that were unanticipated. And what I realized time and time again is that nutrition was at the core of it. And we would see some critical things come up time and time again. Deficiency of vitamin B12, deficiency of vitamin D, folic acid. There are so many nutrients that are basic and essential for the health of the brain to work properly that I really found so much more of my time was being devoted to teaching patients about how to eat properly. But then we're facing this problem where our food supply in the current industrial environment's not being manufactured in a way that's as healthy as it should, right? And we're finding pesticides in strawberries, we're finding toxins in cereal, right? So even absorbing nutrients from the diet becomes an issue. So I for many years, found myself providing supplements to my patients, recommending that they take different variants. Like one of the most important things I could tell the audience is make sure that when you're getting your routine blood check your vitamin B12 level.
Right.
If it's anything less than 400, you're probably scraping the bottom of the barrel. And just the regular B12 that you're going to find in a pharmacy like CVS or Walgreens is probably not the right kind. I would recommend that people use methylcobalamin. We could talk for a long time about this. But point being that for the nervous system to work properly, you need the raw ingredients to make it work. Well, at the same time, there's been an explosion of interest by people who are just trying to make themselves better. And I got to the point where I found that it was really hard for me to continue to try to cobble together solutions from different nutritional stores. So my partner and I just created our own. It's called Action Potential Supplements, and I'm really proud of it. We handpicked different nutritional supplements that we think are the most important and most critical to help brain health. And as we started to go beyond those critical nutrients, we found that there are many other nutrients that really optimize, enhance brain function. Nutritional mushrooms are becoming very popular, and for good reason.
Right.
They can help brain function improve. There are other protein supplements, whey protein. The list goes on and on. But if anybody's interested, they can go to myactionpotential.com and see what we have to offer. We're also really trying very hard to make this accessible to a large number of people. Vitamin supplements can be very expensive, and people can end up in debt if they really took everything they needed.
100%.
So we really made it a mission to try to make it accessible at a good price for people.
And as a first-hand consumer of your vitamin products, I can vouch for it. It's made a big difference in my life.
Thank you.
And this has been amazing. I would love to host you again.
Thank you.
Now, for our audience that would like to reach out to you to start working on an action plan for their life, how they can get a hold of you? What's your website and all your access that they can reach out to you?
Thank you. Yeah, the easiest way to get in touch with us is to go to our website. It's www.neurogenesisproject.com. That's neuro like the brain, Genesis like the book of the Bible, project.com. And you can apply to become a patient through there. You can always call us as well, 912-268-3097. That's the easiest way. And feel free to connect with us. And we're taking patients as soon as 3 days from now. So we really try to keep plenty of room open so that we can be accessible to the community.
Thank you so much, Dr. Orr. This has been amazing. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the chat, share it with anyone who might find value in it, whether they need a little life advice or going through the home buying process. If you or anyone you know are looking to buy a home, I'd like to guide you through the journey. See you next time.